Yes, fight fans, body and mind, sports, my people. You are fully appreciated in this round, my guys, my people. I want to use this video here to talk about Derek Chisora versus Deontay Wilder, which, as we know, it is official for the 5th of April and taking place right here in London at the O2 Arena. And both fighters have already started conducting their media runs, to promote this fight. As we know, they had their press conference right here in London yesterday, and following that, they had their sit down with Talksport's Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. A sit down, right, or an interview, whichever one you prefer, that got very, very heated. Ended up with Wilder exploding on Simon Jordan and walking off set. So yeah, that was that. That was that. But the media promotions for this fight really started in the US with the Mr. Versace podcast. And what I want to say about the promotion so far is that we've seen both fighters looking very, very friendly, very, very pally and cordial with one another, despite that they are going to be fighting. And that sort of reminds me of Saul Canelo Alvarez and Terence Bud Crawford when they were going to fight. And in the weeks or days leading up to their fight, which took place in September, there were photographs of both fighters sitting together with Turki Al-Sheikh and having dinner together, with all the fine wear dinner sets all on display on the table. I'm talking about a full banquet, my guys. And that caused a stir on social media amongst fans. Some speculating that the fight was going to be a fixed fight. Well, it turned out not to be, right? That turned out not to be. Well, we can say the same of this fight, Derek Chisora versus Deontay Wilder, especially if we are to take, some information from Steven Nelson, who dealed on Boxing King Media, my guys, my people. Nelson says that he was actually in Dubai with Chisora and Wilder when they had that really, really, really heated face-off at the IBA event. That event there, which was Kubrat Pulev defending his WBA regular strap against Murat Gassiev. Of course, we know Gassiev, he won that fight, my guys. But anyway, the face-off with Wilder and Chisora, Nelson, he says that was not scripted. That wasn't scripted. It was actually real. They were really, really going at each other as it looked. And that Chisora, after that, he checked himself out of the hotel, which they were all lodging in, just so that he doesn't run into Deontay Wilder. So yeah, Derek Chisora, he's got screws loose, man. He's got some screws loose. So I guess maybe he just didn't want to mess up the bag, running into, Deontay Wilder, and something ends up happening. Right. So taking from that, I can guarantee you that despite that both of these fighters are being really, really cordial with one another, this is going to be a real banger, real fireworks. You can just, take that alone from how both fighters fight. You can take it from that alone. And this is a really, really good matchup, both at the very tail end of their career, at a similar age. Wilder, 40 years old. Derek Chisora, now 41 years old. At the point of their career right now where we've had a lot of personalities in the boxing world that have, been urging them to retire. Neither looking to retire just yet. However, Chisora, he has said that win or lose, he will be retiring, which I find very hard to believe, because Derek Chisora, he is number 2 under the IBF. So if he's to beat Wilder, he strengthens his claim to being Alexander Usyk's mandatory, especially with that number one spot under the IBF vacant. So he will strengthen his claim to a title shot. Is Chisora gonna walk away from that, especially if he wins in real good fashion? I find it hard to believe that he actually walks away. But Wilder on the other hand, he thinks he's going to carry on regardless. He's going to carry on fighting regardless if he wins or loses to Derek Chisora. Now Wilder, who initially was looking at Derek Chisora as a possible tune-up fight before he goes into an Usyk fight. All right, now that was a fight that was heavily rumored that was going to happen before we actually ended up with what we have now. Chisora versus Wilder, my guys. My people. Well, Chisora, well, he has promised him that, look, you are not going to be seeing Usyk, you're not going to be seeing Usyk, because you're not going to win. You're not going to win. He's promised him that, look, after our fight, your phone is not going to ring except from, your wife and your children. He said that on the Mr. Versace podcast, my guys, my people. And yeah, this is a risky tune-up fight for Deontay Wilder if he is looking at it as that, because Chisora is no tune-up for anyone, especially for a fighter like Deontay Wilder, who is fast in decline. Now both fighters are fast in decline, but Wilder declining just that little bit faster. Chisora, very bizarre that in his career right now at the very tail end, he's on quite a good run. He is on quite a good run, much better run than Deontay Wilder. So I guess that in itself will make him the favorite in this fight here. It will make him the A side, my guys, my people. But look, both fighters are very determined, and ultimately we do have a fight on our hands, and I think it is going to be a banger and a very much better, well, it's a much better matchup than what we had initially, Usyk versus Wilder, and it is a much better matchup than what we had previously as well with Chisora versus Dillian Whyte. Because for one, Chisora versus Dillian Whyte, we've already seen that fight twice already, which didn't turn out as a win for Chisora. Wilder taking the win in both, Whyte taking the win in both occasions. And as for Deontay Wilder and Usyk, nobody was looking forward to that fight. It's a total mismatch. Obvious total mismatch, my guys, my people. So this is just perfect. It is perfect. And a fight that has been brewing for a long time, Derek Chisora, who called out Wilder after he had beat Kubrat Pulev. What year was that? I believe it was in 2022 when he beat Kubrat Pulev. But he couldn't get the Wilder fight because Wilder, he got contracted for a 2-fight deal with the Saudis. So that was Riyadh season for the Joseph Parker and Zhilei Zhang fights, my guys, my people, which we saw the result there. And that's the Wilder that we are, many assume that we're going to get. But look, Wilder, he's very fired up, as you saw at the presser, screaming bomb squad once again in his loudest vocals, I'm screaming out bomb squad. And that takes us to his sit down with Chisora, with Talk Sports and Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver, where Wilder exploded, totally exploded on Simon Jordan. For one, he mentioned Tyson Fury, and Wilder warned him, look, we don't want to talk about Tyson Fury. We don't want to talk about Tyson Fury. We're here to promote our fight. We're here to talk Chisora and Wilder. And what I think pissed off Deontay Wilder in that situation there was Simon Jordan just saying, no, we are going to talk about Tyson Fury. And And Wilder's reaction to that was like, who the hell are you? Who the hell are you to enforce who you're going to talk about or not talk about? And I thought to myself that at that point that maybe Simon Jordan might leave it alone, but I was clearly wrong. Simon Jordan, he is a very, very obstinate character. Well, he brought up the topic of Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder's second fight, where Wilder was blaming his loss to Fury on first he said that Fury tampered with his gloves and removed all the padding from his gloves, that someone tampered with the water. Simon Jordan also said that Deontay Wilder, he blamed Breland for not being a good enough trainer, which of course Wilder said that he didn't say that. He said he didn't say that. Simon Jordan also brought up that Wilder blamed his loss again on his Games of Thrones costume. Again, Wilder said, I didn't say such a thing. That why would you go ahead and take something that one reporter has said and just ride with that? And just ride with that. And I was thinking the same thing. Why would you ride with that? Because Fury has yet to answer why his gloves were looking the way it was in that fight, with the gloves flopping all over the place, and you could literally see the print of his knuckles showing through his gloves. Now that is very, very unusual, my guys. I'm not saying that Fury cheated, but at the same time, I'm not disbelieving Wilder either. For me, it is an open case. It is an open case, my guys, my people. But I think what really, really upset Deontay Wilder the most is that Simon Jordan at that point said that he was very disappointed at Deontay Wilder for coming up with excuses. And listen, at that point there, clearly Simon Jordan is siding with Fury, which at that point, like I said, right, highlights that although Simon Jordan, by some measures, he is a great reporter, but at the same time, you gotta admit, for real, he is an obstinate knob. Because as a reporter, if you are a great reporter, you don't start by taking sides until you have actually uncovered the facts, right? And even then, you shouldn't be going ahead and taking sides, right? What does that solve? What does that solve? But then, of course, Deontay Wilder, he went into the race issue, which I thought he was going directly into the wrong lane there, because he had already said that, look, the truth will come out soon. He's got a documentary coming out. And I think at that point, Simon Jordan had already got his answer. That, look, I got a documentary coming out. Regardless whether the documentary comes out or not, I think it's obvious that you're not going to get the answer there and then. You're not going to get the answer there and then. So why push the issue on Fury's behalf? Are you Fury's friend? Are you Fury's brother? Have you got an agenda, right, to paint Fury as a victim in this case when you don't have the facts? You don't have the facts. Both sides have well, Deontay Wilder, we can say he had some sort of evidence, although we can't prove that it is concrete evidence, but the evidence is still, however, evidence. How does Fury explain his gloves flopping about everywhere? How does it explain his knuckles showing through the gloves? That is very, very unusual. Very, very unusual. And especially Fury, who has a history of taking out the padding, right, out of his gloves during sparring, my guys. Now, can anybody explain that? Now, I don't know, man. A lot of people are taking sides defending Simon Jordan. Some people going as far us calling Deontay Wilder delusional. But with the evidence that is being put forward so far, I don't think you can take anyone's side on this, and I think it's best left alone. But that said, though, I understand why Simon Jordan brought up the questions, regarding that case, because Deontay Wilder, till this day, right, still calls Tyson Fury a cheater. Well, that's up to him, right? That is up to him. Right? And if you think Deontay Wilder is deluded, well, Fury is equally deluded as well, because he doesn't believe that he lost the two Usyk fights. He doesn't believe that he lost the two Usyk fights. Maybe Deontay Wilder is deluded. Maybe he's not deluded. But who's to say? Who's to say, my guys, my people? And yeah, really speaking, that's my take on that, my guys. Nobody should really be taking sides on this matter. It's got really nothing to do with anybody. They're here to promote a fight. Not Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, but Deontay Wilder versus Derek Chisora. And let's leave it at that, my guys, my people. Yes, it did get Deontay Wilder riled up and mad at Simon Jordan. And some people might say, oh, that's the real Deontay Wilder. He is back. How do you put 2 and 2 together and get that? Right? Because even a 5-year-old will get mad if they're pressed into a corner. Right? And this is a perfect example of somebody being cornered and pushed into a corner against their will, my guys, my people. It was totally irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. Yes, you asked the question. A lot of people are interested, but Wilder already gave us the answer, right? He has a documentary coming out soon that would expose everything. Now, whether that is true or not doesn't matter, my guys. It doesn't matter. It's obvious that you're not going to get the truth now, my guys, my people. And yes, Deontay Wilder is right. Racism still exists, despite what Simon Jordan thinks, and he's trying to compare Chisora with Wilder's case, right? Saying that Chisora, well, if there's racism in the sport of boxing, then why is Chisora a national hero of some sort, right? Or should I say a national treasure? That was the exact quote that he used. Why is it a national treasure in this country? Listen, this is Great Britain. This is Great Britain. Wilder comes from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, which has a history, a deep history of racism, the most severe type of racism. If you can go back in the history, all the way to slavery times, and things haven't changed now, my guys, my people. He's from the deep South, from the South, right? America is very different from here, very different, right? For instance, we had the case of Ryan Garcia versus Devin the Dream Haney. After the beating that Ryan Garcia gave Devin Haney, only to find out that he was on PEDs, right? Only to find out that he was on PEDs. But yet, who did the fight fans and the boxing industry support? They supported Ryan Garcia. Are you telling me that has nothing to do with race? Because I heavily doubt it. I heavily doubt it that it didn't have anything to do with race. Also, we had the case of Terence Bud Crawford after he had his day parade in Omaha, Nebraska, his very own hometown, right, where he is the hero of the city, the hero of his hometown, right? He is the hero of his hometown. Yet, on the very day of his parade, 2 police officers arrested him at gunpoint, where they had the man fearing for his life. And you know what their excuse was? They claimed that they didn't know Terence Bud Crawford, and that was two police officers who were actually keeping security at that said parade, my guys. My people, you're telling me that's a coincidence and that wasn't racism? Look, Simon Jordan, you need to clear your eyes, right? I don't know whether you got an agenda, but you didn't need to argue that point to start with. You didn't need to argue the racism point to start with. For one, you're not there to talk about that. For two, my guys, my people, this is not America. It's not America. It is a very, very different place and culture in America than it is over here, my guys. My people, America is heavily, heavily segregated, if you don't know. Now, with that said, I'm done. And before you leave, do like, do share, subscribe. Of course, drop your comments below. And as always, stay super, super blessed.